Hello, Los Angeles. Hello, lovers of the black and gold. Hello, fans of Major League Soccer. And hello to the millions and millions of Defenders of the Bank listeners. And hello to our new followers from South Korea. This is Defenders of the Bank, and this is called One More Sleep, our preview of LAFC's upcoming match the night before the game itself. My name is Christian Filliman, better known as Philly, and I like to refer to myself as the platinum-haired flamingo, and now the Burbankian devil. And you'll notice that I'm riding solo today. That's right, the gray-haired goose himself, the Scarf, is out getting a Kobe bobblehead doll at Dodger Stadium right before he gets ready to fly out to Chicago for his first time. If you're wondering where Chris Lafferty is, he's already in Chi-Town, a city he once called home for over 10 years before moving to the City of Angels. Now, typically, when it's the duo, we usually like to get into some kind of banter. But since it's yours truly, I like to go no frills, plenty of chills, but to be honest, straight, just to the point. Not as much fun doing these by yourself, and I like to get right down to it. But I'll give you a little solo banter because why the hell not? To quote Adam Sandler in the movie The Wedding Singer, I have the microphone, so you will listen to every damn word I have to say. Love that movie. Enjoyed Happy Gilmore too. And I wonder if the sequel to Billy Madison is in the works. Wouldn't that be something? Just as long as there's not a remake or a sequel to Little Nicky. We finally made it to the weekend, Defenders. It's Friday. Got an ice cold Newcastle in my hand and a desire to chill, to be completely honest with you. A lot of LAFC supporters are out there in the windy city. I'm so jealous. I love Chicago, but not in the wintertime. I hate being cold, hence why I left New York City to come out to LA to begin with. Well, that and job opportunities, of course, took a promotion. But my motivation, funny enough, I would always look to Chicago. I lived on the Upper East Side of New York City for a long time back in the day. And during those cold mornings when I didn't want to get out of bed and face the elements, the only thing that got me up and going was checking the weather and seeing what my friends were dealing with in Chicago. If they could do it, then I needed to stop being a little bee, suit up, and hit the elements. But I got to tell you, those Chi-Town winters stuck. In the summer, though, fellas, and hello to everybody in the chat. It's kind of tough for me to bounce and juggle these things. Sun is in the chat. Barrigan Adventures, hello, Ruben Rios. David Bowe, hello, everybody. So you're going to have to bear with me. It's usually a couple of us here, and going back and forth between the chat and what I'm about to say puts, this ADHD-riddled mind sometimes in hyperdrive. But anyways, going right into it, SeatGeek Stadium is going to be the venue for this weekend's matchup, not Soldier Field, much to the chagrin of a lot of LAFC peeps. I know so many people, the gray-haired goose included, would have loved to have gone and checked out a game at Soldier Field. But to my knowledge, I think the Bears have a preseason game going on there on Sunday. So that's the reason why the move to SeatGeek Stadium, not near or at all in downtown Chicago, which is kind of unfortunate. Big city out in the suburbs. It's all good, man. But look, the Fire, during LAFC's tenure, hasn't been a very formidable opponent in Major League Soccer. But they are a team with significant history. Not named after a TV show, as many of y'all would think. In fact, they were named after the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. So Chicago Fire SC is the name of the club. And as far as their success goes, they won the MLS Cup back in 98, Supporter Shield in 03, and, well, 4-time winners of the U.S. Open Cup, in addition to 2 wooden spoons, back-to-back seasons in 2015 and 2016. There are some LAFC ties, however, to the Chicago Fire as a result and courtesy of our assistant coach, Ante Razov. Ante Razov is one of the top 10 scorers in the history of Major League Soccer and is the all-time leading scorer for not just the Chicago Fire, but also Chivas USA. And back in 07, Ante became the 3rd player in MLS history to score over 100 goals. He was in Chicago during their great run. He was part of that 98 MLS Cup team, the Supporter Shield in 03, and 3 of the U.S. Open Cup teams. As far thank you for that, Fluffhead. I appreciate it. As far as how the Chicago Fire have done this season, well, they're 10, 5, 9. 35 points, currently sitting in 9th place in the Eastern Conference. Not a team that's, well, making a lot of noise, so to speak, but a couple of wins here and there very well can get back into the run of things. The interesting thing about the Fire, though, folks, is that they're not a great team at home. 3-4-4 at home on the season. They're much better on the road with a 7-5-1 record. Happens to be the exact case, of course, with LAFC. Is they're 8-3-2 at home, but a paltry 2-3-4 on the road. Not a good one. Not a good one at all. Fluffhead, also thank you for not asking Son to win the World Cup for the U.S. Yo, I got to tell you, folks, I was in the room at the time for the press conference. As you know, many of you who follow this know that I got to ask Son a question, which is, dope. We've worked really hard here at Defenders of the Bank to gain the trust of the club and LAFC PR. So we get to go to these things and get to ask questions when we want to. Scarf stood out during the Giroud press conference. I'm glad I got to stand out during the Sun press conference. But man, when that councilwoman went out there and talked about winning the World Cup, I thought I was the only one in the room that was looking around going, what in the hell is she talking about? It was arguably the most cringeworthy of statements. I mean, talk about being ill-prepared. At least Karen Bass knew what the heck she was talking about. That was really embarrassing. And it's making its rounds all across social media. I would be thoroughly embarrassed if I was that councilwoman. It's evident, no awareness of the beautiful game, and, well, such is life. As far as history between the Chicago Fire and LAFC is concerned, there really isn't any. The last time these two squared off against each other was May the 4th, 2019, a 0-0 draw. Prior to that, the Chicago Fire defeated LAFC by a score of 3-1 on the road. And now, excuse me, beer break. I love Newcastle Defenders. I stopped drinking beer for the longest time because this actual Newcastle, they pulled it. I don't know. They had some thing saying about the coloring. It didn't go with FDA regulations. I don't know. The Coug, oh, you're in Chicago too. Damn, everybody's in Chicago. But they pulled it off the shelf, and they had this Fugazi Newcastle that was run by Lagunitas. I'm sure many of you saw it in the cans. Dude, it was so bad. I really just said to hell with beer afterwards because, well, this was my go-to. And this year it made its return. So I'm loving the Newcastle. Unfortunately, my weight isn't loving the Newcastle, but my taste buds are. Now, going back to that game that LAFC played against the Chicago Fire back in 2019, listen to our starting lineup, Defenders. 4-3-3, which not uncommon for this club. Tyler Miller in between the sticks. That Jordan Harvey, Eddie Segura, who, because he was in the press conference, leads me to believe he'll start. Walker Zimmerman and Steven Beitashour. In the midfield, Mark Anthony Kaye, Edward Atuesta, another number 7, Latif Blessing. Then up top, Diego Rossi, Christian Ramirez, and Carlos Vela. The game the year prior, where they lost to Chicago, you had Vela, Dio, and Rossi up top. Hell, Andre Horta started that game. And if you claim you're a day one and the name Andre Horta doesn't ring a bell, I don't know if you're a day one. That's all I got to say. So, yes, not a lot of history, but we've never beaten the Chicago Fire. And now is a better time than any to go into Chi-Town and take care of business. They have been on a pretty good run of form lately, as of late. They beat the New Jersey Energy Drinks by a score of 1-0 back on July the 26th. They defeated the Foot Clan of Montreal 2-0 on the 19th. Prior to that, they tied Atlanta United on the road before, giving San Diego a pretty good run for their money. So they've actually been pretty good as of late. And they've got 3 really good scorers that can really stick it to any club. Hugo Kuipers, Philip Zinkernagel, and Brian Gutierrez are some really good players that this team has. And oh, by the way, managed by former U.S. men's national team coach Greg Berhalter, our favorite coach in the U.S. men's national team. Right? I don't know. It's with Pochettino doing his thing, with the fact that a lot of people have asked for Greg Berhalter back. It's kind of crazy. Oh, I saw Lou Malnati pizza reference in the chat. That's the good stuff. Gino's East, Giordano's. If you want that deep dish, Chicago does throw down when it comes to pizza. All right. let's get into all the fun stuff, the players to watch. And let's make sure I can take care of this in a good way. Yes, I mentioned his name, Philip Zinckernagel, the Danish player that's been on the Chicago Fire this season, came in from Bodo Klimt. Prior to that, he was at Club Brugge Standard Liège, which is a team that Laurent Ciman played for, by the way. Very short stint at Olympiacos. Really got a lot of run, though, with Bodo Klimt. That's the team where he featured the most. A Danish international on the 18 and the 20 side. And, well, he's been playing very, very well. I know most of you probably would have thought that I would have gone with Hugo Kuipers due to the fact that the guy's got 14 goals across 23 games. But Philip, and his name is great, Zinckernagel, 10 assists and 10 goals on the season. Not only is he a goal scorer, but he's a facilitator extraordinaire. Certainly a player to keep your eye on, defenders. But that being said, Hugo Kuipers, another guy who could really score at will, 14 goals as mentioned. And Brian Gutierrez, man, having a pretty darn good season as well with 7. They are one of the teams that are tops as far as contributing on goal scoring opportunities. In fact, the Chicago Fire number 7 in Major League Soccer, I believe, with 31 assists on the goals that they've scored. So they're a team that does like to play well and consistently together. So keep that in your back pipes. This is a team that we're going to have to disrupt. So Zinckernagel, to me, is the key to the Fire's engine. I should have actually changed that because that might have been left over. But while I have him up on the line, might as well talk about him a little bit. My player to watch is truly David Martinez. I thought I'd change that. Clearly, I didn't. But look, Bouanga is 7 goals away from becoming the first player in MLS history to score 20 regular season goals in 3 consecutive games. The man's got 88 goals in all competitions for LAFC, and he's just 5 goals defenders shy of tying Carlos Vela in club history. That and the fact that, look, he's already had 20 game-winning goals for LAFC. He's already surpassed Carlos Vela in that regard. But the way he's doing it has been insane, really freaking quickly. Vela had 93 goals in a total of 186 games. Denis Bouanga, 88 in only 138, I believe it is. So Denis on fire. No question about it. But in reality, I wanted to focus on David Martinez, mainly for the fact that a lot of David's goals have occurred during MLS play when he's on the road. As we know, LAFC has only won 2 games on the road, but Martinez seems to shine for the black and gold, or in this case, it's going to be the white-collared and gold as they take on the Fire, I believe, at SeatGeek Stadium. So the kid's really good on the road. So he's the player that I would really like to put an emphasis on, although I have Denis Bouanga on the screen. I do like to mention his accolades because, look, he's, in my opinion, the best player LAFC's had. Call it a hot take. He's my favorite player just because he plays with so much passion and a burning desire to win. As far as keys to the game go, now Steve had mentioned in a couple of press conferences that you can't put your feet on the gas all the time. They didn't do it against the likes of Tigres, and it actually worked out very well for them. But against a club like the Chicago Fire, I think there's a scenario where they need to control possession and obviously press their players and try to regain that ball back, causing havoc. LAFC, as we know, is good on the counter, but I do believe controlling possession is going to be the key to this game. As far as whether or not Son is going to play, he's in the chat. I see. Hello, sir. Thank you for joining LAFC. Thank you for taking my question. More importantly, thank you for opening up this fan base to LAFC. Over 1 million followers now on LAFC's Instagram. Heck, Defenders picked up a couple of extra followers on X and Instagram. Even I did too. So thank you for that. Now, in the press conference, Steve said that Son is going to travel, but they had to clear all the international and immigration hurdles before he could play. But obviously the idea was with him traveling with the team, they would be in hopes that all the paperwork would clear so he could play. And so Tom Bogert reported recently, as did Josh Gross, that, well, he's going to be ready to play. He already trained. We saw the nice video of him embracing Hugo Lloris. I've also seen the video of those two going at each other in a Tottenham locker room, very angrily at each other. So there is obvious respect between those two, of course, because Hugo Lloris at one point was Son's captain. And with Hugo Lloris speaking at the press conference earlier, that leads me to believe that he is going to get the start. So we may very well see Son hit the pitch. Whether or not he will start, I don't know. I'm hoping that he will get his run of play with the team. He'll feel comfortable enough, and we'll get to see him trot out onto the pitch to start the game. Although I wouldn't be surprised if on the 31st of August against San Diego FC, if they trot him out around the 65th minute to get a roaring applause from everybody at BMO Stadium. But he is eligible to play. More than likely won't start, but may possibly see the field. So keep that one in the back of your mind. As far as the scoreline, a lot of odds makers, and I think the Coug is better equipped to talk about this than I am. I think the over is 2.5, the over-under. And so I'm picking a 2-1 score for LAFC. I don't see any reason for LAFC to lose, to be completely honest with you. Good run of form, and I don't think the Chicago Fire are a strong team, and they really, really struggle to win at home. So if there's ever a match for LAFC to win on the road, this has to be it. It's going to be a long 3-game road stretch for the Black and Gold. They're going to take on the Rev, and they're, of course, going to take on FC Dallas. And it's never been a pretty sight anytime LAFC has gone down in the Lone Star State, the great state of Texas. It's usually been a state of horrors for LAFC. So a big win to start off this road trip against Chicago, I'd say, is very important. Of course, very possible. So 2-1 is the score that I predict there. Now, Rob in the chat asking about Ebobisse, role on the bench. It's going to be more or less a role as a spectator because soft tissue injury is what he sustained in the matchup against Tigres. So Steve said he's going to be out for several weeks. So we're not going to see Jeremy Ebobisse. Steve also said that as far as Son is concerned, he'd be interchanged with Denis Bouanga on the pitch. So we don't know. Maybe they'll have him in the middle. Maybe they'll have him on the left. Maybe they'll have him on the right. Either way, Sonny is a very versatile player who could take care of business in that scenario. So therein lies the tale of the tape. LAFC taking on the Chicago Fire for the third time in club history, looking for, shocking to say, their first win against the Chicago Fire in club history. And if there ever is a time for it to happen, that's got to be the one. I see an on a mission from God. I love that little Blues Brothers reference. Pretty darn good. Sam Ramirez in the chat. I was wondering when a Dolo out comment would come through. Sorry, ain't happening right away. But it is. So the Dolo out faction is going to get their wish at the end of the season. Going to stick with us for the rest of it. So that being the case, you should too. Because this team, while many believe has not been very good this season, they haven't been historically bad defenders in 22 games throughout club history. They're 10-6-6 in 2025. They had the same exact record in the inaugural year at this point, 22 matches in 2018, with a 10-6-6 record. They repeated that feat in 2023, a year in which many of you will remember they repeated as Western Conference champions and went again to the MLS Cup, where unfortunately they lost at the hands of the Columbus Crew. So as bad as many you think that LAFC is, they're really not that bad. You sure, Sam, we could be way better, but the same could be said really about any club at any point. 10-6-6 isn't awful. As long as they finish within the top 4, they get a spot in the playoffs at home, which is what they're looking for. And still, with the addition of all these new players that they brought in, very strong possibility to finish even up higher. So very strong possibility. The worst season that we've ever had, over 22 games played, you have to go back to 2021 where they were 6-10-6. That was the worst LAFC team of all time. If you remember going to Dignity Health Sports Park, not Dignity Health Sports Park, Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Colorado, Commerce City, Colorado, decision day, final game of the season. That's it still took LAFC down to the wire, but this is historically a pretty good team in the grand scheme of it. Only the 2019 team, the 2022 team, and the 24 team were better. This is actually a pretty good LAFC team. So with all the excitement that's gone on, with all the new signings that have come on, we should be feeling a lot more optimistic about this team now than we did about a month ago. So I'm feeling pretty good about this game. We'll talk more about the Revolution and, of course, FC Dallas when that comes through. But for now, I got nothing more to say to all y'all defenders other than cheers. I'm jealous of all y'all that are in Chicago. I hope you have a good time. If you have the opportunity to, Try to look for one of those guided prohibition tours where you get on the bus and they take you around from bar to bar. That's pretty dope. You get to learn about the history of prohibition in this country. You get to learn about the likes of Al Capone. Crazy story. That is, I mean, the only thing that took down Al Capone, Elliot Ness was obviously, but it wasn't, the racketeering. It wasn't the bootlegging. It wasn't all the other crime that he was committing. Guy was like one of the wealthiest people in the world. What took him down? He didn't pay his taxes, defenders. It was the IRS that took down Al Capone, and then syphilis when he was in jail. So pay your taxes is the story. But if you can and you're in Chicago, check out that one of the many prohibition tours that are guided. Good stuff. Enjoy, folks. It's going to be just yours truly on the recap episode on Sunday. It'll be quick and to the point. Maybe I can find a guest. Maybe I won't. Maybe it'll just be me and Hello Kitty. I don't know. But either way, we'll get you the 411 after LAFC. Layeth the smacketh down on the Chicago Fire's Butte. That being said, enjoy the rest of your night. And hasta la bye-bye.